The church bells were ringing. 300 guests sat in wooden pews waiting. My white dress flowed behind me like a dream. In exactly 30 minutes, I would marry the love of my life, Daniel. Then my phone buzzed. I should have ignored it, but when I saw my boss's name, Richard Crane, I felt my stomach drop. Richard never called on weekends. Something was wrong. Harper, his voice was cold as ice. Don't bother coming to work on Monday. You're terminated. Effective immediately. My bouquet slipped from my fingers. Rose petals scattered across the marble floor. What? I whispered. Richard, I'm getting married in 30 minutes. This is a joke, right? No joke. Security already cleaned out your desk. Your final paycheck will be mailed. But I've worked at Crane Industries for 7 years. I built the marketing department from nothing. My voice cracked. Tears ruined my perfect makeup. And I'm grateful. But business is business. Goodbye, Harper. The line went dead. I stood there frozen. My maid of honor, Jessica, rushed over. Harper? Harper, what's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost. I couldn't speak. I couldn't breathe. My whole world had just shattered. I walked down that aisle with mascara streaming down my cheeks. Every step felt like walking through quicksand. The guests whispered. Daniel's face shifted from joy to confusion to panic. Harper, what happened? He mouthed. I couldn't answer. The priest's words blurred together. When Daniel said, I do, I barely managed to whisper it back. At the reception, I couldn't fake happiness anymore. I told Daniel everything in the bathroom while guests danced outside. He fired you? Today. Daniel's face turned red with fury. I'll kill him. Don't, I said flatly. It won't change anything. But Daniel didn't listen. He stormed out and called Richard directly. I heard him screaming through the phone. When he came back, his expression terrified me. What did Richard say? I asked. Daniel swallowed hard. He said you were stealing from the company. He said he has proof. What? I jumped to my feet. That's a lie. I never stole anything. I know, baby. I believe you. But the damage was done. By morning, my name would be destroyed. Richard Crane hadn't just fired me. He had framed me. And I didn't even know why. The honeymoon was canceled. How could we celebrate when my reputation was burning to the ground? By Monday morning, the news had spread everywhere. Harper Donovan, marketing executive, fired for embezzlement. The headline made me physically sick. Former colleagues stopped answering my calls. Friends disappeared. My own mother called, crying. Harper, please tell me this isn't true. It's not true, Mom. I sobbed. Richard made it all up. But nobody believed me. Why would they? Richard Crane was a respected businessman. He had buildings named after him. He donated millions to charity. I was nobody. Daniel held me every night while I cried. We'll fight this, he promised. We'll hire lawyers. We'll clear your name. But lawyers cost money. And without a job, our savings drained fast. 3 weeks after my wedding, I sat alone in our tiny apartment, staring at rejection emails. 37 companies had refused to hire me. My career was dead. That's when something inside me shifted. I stopped crying. I stopped feeling sorry for myself. I picked up a notebook and wrote one sentence. Richard Crane will pay for what he did to me. The revenge had begun. 2 months after my termination, a plain brown envelope appeared in my mailbox. No return address. No name. Just my address, handwritten. Inside was a single USB drive and a note. Richard Crane has more enemies than you know. The truth is on this drive. Use it wisely. My hands trembled as I plugged it into my laptop. Files appeared. Hundreds of them. Financial records. Emails. Internal memos. As I read through them, my jaw dropped lower and lower. Richard hadn't fired me because I was stealing. He fired me because I was about to discover that he was stealing. Millions of dollars. Hidden in offshore accounts. Fake vendors. Ghost employees. I was getting too good at my job. I was asking too many questions. I had scheduled a meeting to discuss budget irregularities the week after my wedding. Richard panicked. He destroyed me first. But who sent this envelope? Who else knew the truth? The final file was a photograph. It showed Richard shaking hands with someone familiar. I zoomed in and gasped. It was Marcus Webb, Richard's business partner and supposed best friend. Underneath the photo were 3 words: he wants out. Someone on the inside wanted Richard to fall, and they had just handed me the weapon. I couldn't use the evidence immediately. If I exposed Richard now, he'd claim I fabricated everything out of revenge. I needed credibility first. I needed power, so I started small. I created a consulting company from our kitchen table. Donovan Strategies. It sounded more impressive than it was. I had no clients, no office, and no reputation. But I had something Richard underestimated. I had skills. My first client was a struggling bakery owned by an elderly woman named Gloria. She couldn't afford much, but I helped her anyway. I redesigned her marketing, created social media campaigns, and tripled her customers in 2 months. Gloria told her friends. They told others. Word spread. By month 4, I had 12 clients. By month 6, 28. Daniel watched me work 18-hour days. Harper, you're running yourself into the ground. I know, I admitted. But I have a goal. I can rest when Richard Crane is begging at my feet. Daniel frowned. This revenge thing, it's changing you. Maybe he was right. But I couldn't stop now. The fire in my chest burned too hot. I was just getting started. One rainy afternoon, a woman walked into my small office. She was about 50, elegantly dressed, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Harper Donovan, she asked. That's me. How can I help you? She sat down and smiled. Actually, I'm here to help you. My name is Victoria Ashford. I was Richard Crane's business partner's wife. I froze. Marcus Webb's wife. Ex-wife, she corrected. Richard Crane destroyed my marriage. Marcus became so obsessed with covering Richard's crimes that he forgot he had a family. So I divorced him. I'm sorry, I said carefully. But why are you here? Victoria leaned forward. Because I know what Richard did to you. I know about the frame-up, and I want to help you take him down. Why would you help me? Her smile turned cold. Because Richard convinced Marcus to give me almost nothing in the divorce. He had the assets I was entitled to. Richard Crane stole 20 years of my life. She slid a checkbook across the table. I still have some resources. Consider this an investment in justice. I stared at her. What's the catch? No catch. Just promise me one thing. When Richard falls, I want to watch. Victoria's investment changed everything. Suddenly, I had funds to expand. I hired 3 employees. I moved into a real office. 6 months later, Donovan Strategies landed its first major client, Henderson Electronics. They were a mid-sized tech company looking to rebrand. Here's what made it sweet. Henderson Electronics was one of Crane Industries' biggest clients. Well, they were. Richard had been neglecting them for months, taking their business for granted. I swooped in with better ideas, better prices, and better service. When Henderson announced they were switching to my company, Richard Crane noticed me for the first time since the wedding. My phone rang. Unknown number. But I recognized the voice immediately. Harper! Richard's tone was dangerous. I see you've started a cute little business. Hello, Richard. Surprised I'm not homeless. I'm calling to warn you. Stay away from my clients. You won't like what happens if you don't. I laughed. Actually laughed. Is that a threat? It's a promise. I leaned back in my chair, savoring the moment. Richard, I'm just getting started. And there's nothing you can do to stop me. I hung up first this time. Richard struck back hard. Within weeks, 3 of my clients canceled their contracts. They claimed budget cuts, but I knew better. Richard was threatening them. Then came the lawsuit. Crane Industries sued me for stealing proprietary strategies. It was ridiculous. I had created those strategies myself. But defending the lawsuit would cost money I didn't have. He's trying to bankrupt you, Victoria warned. Classic Richard move. Daniel was worried too. Maybe we should back off, Harper. Just focus on building the business without poking the bear. But retreating wasn't an option. Richard would never stop until I was completely destroyed. I had to keep fighting. The lowest moment came when I discovered a mole in my company. Jamie, my assistant, had been copying my files and sending them to Richard. When I confronted her, she cried, "He threatened my family, Harper." I didn't have a choice. I should have hated her, but I understood fear. Richard Crane was a monster. "You're fired," I said quietly. But I won't press charges. Just go. As Jamie left, I realized something important. I needed to be smarter. Richard played dirty. I needed to play smarter. I hired a cybersecurity expert named Owen Chen. Young, brilliant, and completely paranoid. Exactly what I needed. Your systems were wide open, Owen reported after his assessment. Anyone could have accessed your files. But don't worry. I'll make this place a fortress. With Owen's help, I set a trap. I created fake documents, plans for a revolutionary new campaign that would supposedly destroy Crane Industries' reputation. The documents were completely fictional, but they looked incredibly real. Then I waited. Within days, Richard made his move. He filed an emergency injunction to stop my illegal campaign before it launched. He presented my fake documents as evidence. The judge was confused. Ms. Donovan, what do you have to say about these documents? I smiled sweetly. Your Honor, those documents are fake. I created them specifically to see if someone was illegally accessing my computer systems. This proves Mr. Crane has been spying on my company. Richard's face went white. The judge turned to him slowly. Mr. Crane, did you obtain these documents through illegal surveillance? Richard stammered. His lawyers panicked. The lawsuit was dismissed. And suddenly, Richard Crane was the one facing legal questions. First major victory. I spent the next year building quietly. No more direct attacks on Richard. I wanted him to think he'd scared me off. Behind the scenes, Donovan Strategies was exploding. We went from 5 employees to 30. From 12 clients to over 100. Revenue doubled, then tripled. Business magazines started calling me the comeback queen. But I kept my profile low. Every interview I politely declined. Every award I accepted quietly. I was building an empire in the shadows. And Richard had no idea how big it was getting. Meanwhile, Victoria introduced me to powerful allies. Investors who hated Richard. Politicians he had crossed. Journalists who suspected his corruption but couldn't prove it. Richard has spent decades making enemies, Victoria explained. We're just organizing them. One night, Daniel looked at our growing bank account with wide eyes. Harper, we're actually rich now. Not yet, I said. But we're getting there. Is this still about revenge? Or has it become something else? I paused, considering his question. Both, I admitted. I want justice for what he did to me. But I also want to build something real. Something good. Daniel kissed my forehead. Just don't lose yourself along the way. 2 years after my wedding day disaster, Daniel sat me down with a nervous expression. Harper, we need to talk. My stomach nodded. I knew that tone. I've been offered a job, he continued. A really good one. Vice President of Operations. That's amazing, I exclaimed. Where? Daniel couldn't meet my eyes. Crane Industries. The world stopped spinning. What? I whispered. I know how this looks. But Harper, we need to be strategic. What if I could get inside? Get information. You actually interviewed there? Behind my back. I was going to tell you. When? I was screaming now. After you started working for the man who destroyed my life. Daniel reached for me. Harper, please understand. I pulled away. Did Richard offer you this job? Or did you seek it out? Silence. Daniel, answer me. He reached out to me, Daniel admitted. He said he wanted to make peace. He felt bad about what happened. My laugh was bitter. And you believed him? Richard doesn't feel bad about anything. He's using you to get to me. That night, Daniel slept on the couch. By morning, I had made a decision that broke my heart. I want a divorce. Daniel stared at me like I'd slapped him. Harper, no. I made a mistake. I won't take the job. It's not about the job anymore. Tears rolled down my cheeks. It's about trust. You went behind my back. You talked to the man who framed me, who destroyed everything I worked for. And you didn't tell me. I love you, Daniel pleaded. I love you too. But I can't have anyone in my life who would even consider helping Richard Crane. The divorce was finalized quickly. We had no children, few assets to divide. Daniel tried calling for months, but I never answered. Victoria found me crying in my office one night. He's gone, I sobbed. I lost everything because of Richard. My job, my reputation, now my marriage. Victoria held my hand. I know it hurts, But you need to decide. Are you going to let this break you or fuel you? I wiped my tears, straightened my spine. Richard Crane has taken enough from me. He doesn't get my future too. Victoria smiled proudly. That's the Harper I invested in. Now, let's finish what we started. Year 3 began with a secret meeting. Victoria arranged for me to meet Marcus Webb, her ex-husband and Richard's partner. I was suspicious at first, but Victoria promised he was genuine. We met at a quiet restaurant outside the city. Marcus looked tired, older than his 55 years. I'm not proud of what I've done, Marcus began. I helped Richard hide money, cheat investors, destroy careers, including yours. So why are you talking to me? Because Richard is getting worse. He's not satisfied with millions anymore. He wants billions. And he's willing to burn everything down to get it. Marcus slid a folder across the table. This is everything. Every crime. Every hidden account. Every person he's hurt. I opened the folder and scanned the contents. It was devastating. Enough to put Richard in prison for decades. Why give this to me? I asked. Because you're the only person with enough motivation to actually use it. And because, Marcus hesitated, because I was the one who sent you that first envelope. 2 years ago. My eyes widened. That was you. Marcus nodded. I've been waiting for you to be ready. And now you are. Richard's company was starting to crumble, not from my attacks, but from his own greed. He had expanded too fast, borrowed too much. Crane Industries was bleeding money. Stock prices dropped weekly. Investors were nervous. Business news speculated about bankruptcy. Crane Industries, too big to fail or too rotten to save. I watched from afar, patient as a spider. Victoria kept me updated on Richard's deteriorating mental state. He's paranoid, fires people daily, screams at everyone. The board is considering removing him. Not yet, I said. He needs to fall further. Meanwhile, my company flourished. We had expanded into new markets, new services. Donovan Strategies was now valued at over $50 million. Journalists finally connected the dots. Harper Donovan, the woman Richard Crane tried to destroy. The story went viral. Suddenly, everyone knew my name and my history with Richard. My phone rang constantly. Interview requests, partnership offers, speaking invitations. But I only cared about one thing. One afternoon, my lawyer called with news that made my heart race. Harper, Crane Industries is officially up for sale. Richard needs cash desperately. The time had come. I couldn't buy Crane Industries directly. Richard would never sell to me. So I created a shell company, Horizon Acquisitions LLC. No trace back to Harper Donovan. I hired the best lawyers and accountants in the country. Everything was structured perfectly. The bidding process was intense. 3 major companies competed for Crane Industries. But Horizon Acquisitions offer the best terms, cash, quick closing, minimal layoffs. Richard accepted our offer without ever knowing who was really buying his life's work. The day before closing, Richard's assistant called my office. Miss Donovan, Mr. Crane would like to meet with you. I almost dropped my phone. Excuse me. He says it's urgent. About a potential partnership. I smiled to myself. Richard was desperate. His company was being sold, and he wanted to create new alliances. He had no idea he was about to become my employee. Tell Mr. Crane I'm available tomorrow afternoon. He'll be pleased. Where shall he meet you? At Crane Industries headquarters. I have some business there anyway. If she found that strange, she didn't say. Very well. 3 o'clock. Perfect. Tomorrow, everything will change. 3 o'clock. Crane Industries headquarters. I wore a red power suit. Confident, bold, unforgettable. Victoria waited in the car outside, ready to celebrate. Richard met me in his office. He looked terrible. Gray skin, bloodshot eyes, wrinkled suit. The stress was destroying him. Harper! He forced a smile. Thank you for coming. Please sit. I remained standing. I'd rather not. This won't take long. His smile faltered. I wanted to discuss a partnership. Your company has done remarkably well. I thought perhaps. You thought perhaps I'd forgotten? My voice was ice. Forgotten that you fired me on my wedding day? Framed me for crimes I didn't commit? Tried to destroy my business? Richard's mask cracked. Now, Harper, That was just business. No, Richard. That was personal. And so is this. I pulled out the acquisition documents. Placed them on his desk. Horizon Acquisitions, he read slowly. Confusion crossed his face. What does this have to do with? I own Horizon Acquisitions, Richard. As of 1 hour ago, I own this company. I own everything you built. I leaned forward. I own you. His face went through every color. Red, white, gray. His mouth opened and closed like a dying fish. No, he whispered. That's impossible. Nothing is impossible, Richard. You taught me that. Richard lunged across the desk. You can't do this. I'll sue. Security guards entered immediately. But they weren't Richard's security anymore. They were mine. Mr. Crane, the head guard said calmly. Please step away from Miss Donovan. Richard looked around wildly. Reality was crashing down. I continued, voice steady. But wait, Richard. There's more. Did you think I'd just take your company? No. I want everyone to know who you really are. I pulled out Marcus's folder. The evidence of every crime. Every theft. Every destroyed life. This goes public tomorrow. Every news outlet. Every investor. Every person you've ever cheated on. Richard's legs buckled. He collapsed into his chair. Why, he croaked. Why did you fire me? I worked so hard for you. I was loyal. What did I ever do to deserve this? Richard stared at me for a long moment. Then, incredibly, he laughed. You really want to know? Yes. Because you reminded me of someone I hated. Someone who humiliated me decades ago. His eyes were wild now. My first boss. A woman named Harper Donovan. My blood ran cold. That was my mother's name. I know. Why do you think I hired you in the first place? My mind reeled. You hired me because of my mother? Richard's laugh was bitter. Harper Donovan was the marketing director who rejected my first business proposal. Publicly humiliated me in front of investors. Called me a fraud with delusions of grandeur. I remembered my mother mentioning someone from her early career. A young, arrogant man she'd had to put in his place. So you waited decades to get revenge through her daughter? I didn't plan it at first. But when I saw your resume, saw that name, it felt like fate. Richard's eyes glittered. I gave you 7 years. Let you build everything. Then I took it all away, just like your mother took my dream. The depth of his pettiness stunned me. All this pain, this destruction, because my mother had criticized him 30 years ago. You're insane, I whispered. Maybe. But I'm also finished, aren't I? Richard seemed almost peaceful now. You've won, Harper. Congratulations. I gathered my documents. This isn't about winning, Richard. It's about justice. For me. For the hundreds of others you've hurt. And what happens to me now? That depends on the prosecutors. But I suspect you'll have plenty of time to think about your choices. The news broke like a bomb. Crane Industries founder exposed. Decades of fraud, embezzlement, and employee abuse. Every network covered the story. Every newspaper ran headlines. Social media exploded. Former employees came forward with horror stories. Investors demanded answers. Politicians who had accepted Richard's donations ran for cover. I gave one interview, just one. Miss Donovan, how does it feel to own the company that wrongfully terminated you? I looked directly into the camera. This isn't about feelings. Richard Crane hurt countless people over many years. He used his power to destroy anyone who threatened him. Today, the truth has finally come out. What will happen to Crane Industries now? It will be restructured, renamed, and run ethically. Every employee who was wrongfully terminated, including myself, will receive full compensation and public apologies. And Richard Crane himself, that's for the justice system to decide. But I hope his victims finally have peace. After the interview, Victoria hugged me tight. You did it, Harper. You actually did it. We did it. I corrected. I couldn't have done this alone. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Saw the interview. I'm proud of you. Daniel. I smiled sadly and didn't reply. 3 weeks after Richard's arrest, I received a strange visitor. There's a woman here to see you, my assistant said. She says she's Richard Crane's daughter. I froze. I didn't know Richard had children. A young woman entered, about 25, with Richard's sharp features but kinder eyes. I'm Emma Crane, she said quietly. I know you have every reason to throw me out, but please, just hear me. I nodded slowly. Go ahead. Emma's eyes filled with tears. I want to apologize for what my father did to you. For all of it. You don't need to apologize for his actions. I know, but someone from my family should. She took a shaky breath. My father was a terrible man. I've known that since I was a child. He was cruel to my mother, distant to me, obsessed with money and power. Then why are you here? Because I'm not him. And I want to prove it. Emma straightened. I have an MBA. I want to work, really work, not just collect a paycheck. I want to help rebuild what my father destroyed. I studied her for a long moment. Why should I trust you? You shouldn't. Trust is earned. Let me earn it. Against my better judgment, I saw sincerity in her eyes. Maybe even a chance at redemption, not for Richard, but for his daughter. You start Monday. Entry level. No special treatment. The newly renamed Donovan Crane Industries flourished under ethical leadership. We reinstated every wrongfully terminated employee. We paid settlements to investors Richard had cheated. We donated to charities he had stolen from. The company that once represented greed and corruption became a symbol of redemption. Emma proved herself invaluable. She worked harder than anyone, stayed later, never complained. Slowly, employees stopped seeing her as Richard's daughter and started seeing her as a colleague. One day, Emma approached me nervously. Can I ask you something personal? Of course. How did you do it? Keep going when everything was against you. I thought carefully. I focused on what I could control. My effort, my choices, my integrity. Richard tried to take everything from me, but he couldn't take those. Emma nodded slowly. My father is asking to see me. In prison. Are you going to go? I don't know. Part of me never wants to see him again. But another part, she trailed off, wants closure. Yes. I placed my hand on her shoulder. Whatever you decide, make sure it's for you. Not for him. Not for anyone else. Emma hugged me suddenly. Thank you. For everything. Curiosity got the better of me. I arranged to visit Richard in prison. The man who sat across the glass partition looked nothing like the powerful executive who had destroyed my wedding day. He was thin, pale, broken. Harper! His voice was barely a whisper. You came. I had to see for myself. See what? My humiliation. My defeat. No. I surprised myself with my honesty. I wanted to see if you understood what you did. Richard was quiet for a long moment. I've had nothing but time to think. About you. About everyone I hurt. His eyes glistened. I told myself I was just being smart. Being tough. But I was just cruel. Yes. You were. I'm sorry, Harper. I know that doesn't fix anything. But I am truly sorry. I studied his face. The apology seemed genuine. But it also seemed hollow too late. Sorry doesn't give me back my wedding day. Or my marriage. Or 2 years of my life spent in fear and poverty. Richard nodded. I know. I don't expect forgiveness. I just needed you to know. I stood to leave. Goodbye, Richard. Harper. I paused. Take care of Emma. She's the only good thing I ever created. Despite everything, I nodded. I will. Exactly 3 years after my wedding day disaster, I stood in the same church. But this time, there were no tears. No devastating phone calls. Just peace. Victoria sat in the front row, beaming. Emma sat beside her, unlikely friends bonded by complicated family histories. I wasn't getting married again. Not yet, anyway. But I was holding a ceremony of my own design. Thank you all for coming, I addressed the small crowd. 3 years ago, I stood in this church with a broken heart. My career was destroyed. My reputation was shattered. My future seemed hopeless. I looked around at the faces of everyone who had helped me survive. But I learned something important. The worst day of your life can become the first day of your best life. Pain can become purpose. Loss can become motivation. I unveiled a plaque that would hang in this church forever. This scholarship fund, the Harper Donovan Foundation, will help women who have faced workplace injustice. Because no one should face destruction alone. The crowd applauded. Victoria wiped tears. Even I felt moisture in my eyes. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destruction. It's transformation. After the ceremony, I found Daniel waiting outside. He looked good, healthy, humble. That was beautiful, he said softly. Your mother would be proud. What are you doing here? I wanted to see you. To properly apologize, he stepped closer. I was stupid, Harper. Richard manipulated me and I let him. I'll regret it forever. It's been 2 years, Daniel. I know, and I'm not asking for another chance. He struggled with words. I just wanted you to know that you were right. About everything. And I'm sorry. We stood in silence for a moment. I forgive you, I said finally. Not for you, for me. I'm tired of carrying anger. Daniel's eyes filled with hope. Does that mean? No. I cut him off gently. Forgiveness isn't the same as reconciliation. I wish you well, Daniel. But my future doesn't include you. He nodded sadly. I understand. Take care of yourself, Harper. You too. As he walked away, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. The last chain connecting me to my painful past had finally broken. I was truly free. 1 year later, Donovan Crane Industries was named Most Ethical Company in America. I stood on stage, accepting the award, thinking about how far I'd come. From a crying bride to a celebrated CEO. From victim to victor. But the sweetest moment wasn't the award. It wasn't the money or the fame. It was the letter I received that morning. Dear Harper, I've spent 4 years in prison thinking about what I did to you and so many others. I wanted you to know that I've started working with a prison rehabilitation program, helping young offenders avoid my mistakes. I don't expect forgiveness, but I wanted you to know that your example, building something good from something terrible, inspired me to try to become better. Thank you for showing mercy to Emma. She visits every month and tells me about the amazing things you're doing together. You deserve better than what I gave you. I hope your future is filled with everything I try to take away. Respectfully, Richard Crane. I read the letter twice. Then I smiled and put it away. The best revenge isn't destroying your enemies. It's becoming so successful, so fulfilled, so at peace, that their actions no longer define you. Richard Crane fired me on my wedding day. 3 years later, I owned his company. But more importantly, I owned my life. And that was the sweetest victory of all.